Alright, welcome back to game number 4 in the best of 5 between Vinchester and Barles for the AoE2 Admirals League tournament. So, got Vinchester up 2-1 in the series so far. If he can take this game, he wins the series, while his opponent Barles will be looking to even the scores up and then go one better in order to secure a spot in the grand final. So, got Barles here on Franks today. So nice castle drop civilization, cheap cavalry, actually not cheap cavalry, extra health in his cavalry line as well, and bonus gathering to foraging, so not so necessary to worry about getting on farms and sort of just trickling through the forage bushes. You're actually just as well off getting through the forage as quickly as possible. Access to those throwing axemen as well, and improved stables train speed and cavalry line of sight, or at least knight line of sight. So Vinchester here on the lower side in the purple trunks, picking Kemmer, so he's on a nice siege and elephant civ that doesn't need to build specific buildings in order to age up. If he wants, he can skip getting the market and not really worry about getting two different types of feudal building to actually age up the castle, and then doing that again with going from castle to imperial. No need to go for like a monastery and a university or a castle. You can really just pick, well, just going for a castle to help him defend, or going for additional town centers, and then just hitting age up as he pleases. So he's also not going to worry about drop-off points for his mills or his town centers for his farms. Probably sounds amazing, but truth be told, because your mill can't fire back, you're still probably going to want things as close to the town center as possible. But he's also got access to ballista elephants, so a faster, stronger scorpion unit, and has access to battle elephants as well, and extra range on scorpion type units, which I believe ballista elephants also benefit from. And double crossbow, so ballista ellies and scorpions both fire a second projectile, so really nice anti-unit siege capability here. And again, really quite flexible, because you're never forced into having to build buildings purely to get them as an age up benefit. You don't have to worry about committing any wood to that. So let's see how things go, whether or not Barles is just trying to go from sort of quick castle advantage, give himself a lot of map control, deny a lot of gold, or easy gold access for Vinchester here. And truth be told, it's really not got the luckiest spawn here. Like, Barles has pretty much a 360-degree span of gold to expand to somewhat safely, I'd say. Although this over here might not be so easy, but he's got right down here, right behind him, and just up towards the top. So Vinchester, on the other hand, his safest gold is actually a secondary gold. His main gold is on the front side of his base, although Barles is as well. Does have this nice bit of gold stone tucked away to the back here, but he's got to work a little bit to get towards this top gold or this corner gold. And relics as well, I think, favour Barles a little bit, because while there's a shitload of relics, I believe there's actually 11. Let's count them. There's 4 up the top, 4 over here, so that's 8, and then another 3 over here in the back corner. But this corner, 2 of them are pretty safe for Barles to get to. These other ones here, a little bit more neutral for all of our players, but ultimately Vinchester doesn't really have a safe relic at all, whereas I'd be happy to call at least this one, possibly this second one, fairly safe for Barles to get on as this game goes on. It's also not too much of a struggle to try and get to this one over here, so golds and relics, I think, ultimately do favour Barles slightly here. But it'll all come down to how our players play this. So Vinchester's going straight on the stables, getting a scout cav. So Barles opening barracks and stables as well, so he's produced a spearman initially to give himself a lot of cost-effective damage against his opponent's cavalry, but neither player opting for a ranged element at all, and the spearman, you know, while he is super cost effective, it is still another investment that ultimately delays one scout cavalry unit. So have to see if Vinchester is able to play around that, or if Barles is really able to leverage a advantage with countering here. The good old, do I just make the fastest shit, or do I make the stuff that actually counters my opponent plan coming into action here? Or decision, I should say. So yeah, Vinchester already out in the field with 4 scout cav, and has more. He's got more queued up at home there. Oh no, that's just a flag for the palisade. He's going to try and pressure Barles here and force him to have to play as defensively with his buildings, but looks like Barles is just content to really wood wall at this, wall off his wood lines at this point. Not worry about investing in a full wall off, because it does incur more cost, both in the cost of the actual palisades being laid and in the time you've got to spend building them and have the villager wander all that distance. So Barles reaping a bit of a eco advantage from that, but in saying that, he needs to make sure he doesn't lose any villagers while doing this, because I think that the plan is probably to go for some sort of early castle age here. Not so sure about castle drop. I mean, it's a possibility, but he might just want to be able to get the knights out in the field ASAP, considering both he and Vinchester are committing to scout cav. Vinchester hasn't yet fielded any spears at all. Vinchester, in the meanwhile, nestled safely back at home here. Just playing it safe. He's up 2-1 in the series. He only needs to close out one more game. So I think he thinks he can afford to be a little bit more conservative and turtley in his approach here. So he's just restarted that scout cav production. Well, Barles committing to a blacksmith so he can go towards castle age, I'd say. Because doesn't look like Barles is really worrying about producing too much else. He's got the 5 cav on the field, and he did have that one spearman somewhere. He's actually brought him back home to help defend. Vinchester's queued up. While he's down 1 cavalry, he's actually 1 cavalry on the field. He's actually got 3+ bloodlines on the way here, so Vinchester trying to bait Barles into throwing away these cav and leaving himself really exposed while trying to go for this quick castle. But Barles is actually just trying to garrison all of his farmers, get enough food to get castle age queued up ASAP. Getting some gold here. So no stone gathering just yet. And a few extra gatherers on gold, so I'd say he's almost definitely going for some sort of big knight push. Considering he's got a little bit of wood in the bank here, he's either going to go second town centre or second stables here. He's just starting to wall off the parts of his base he hadn't bothered with just yet. So in a way, in the long run, it's costing Barles more for the wall off, but at the same time it's actually sped up his overall time to get the castle. On top of that, the spearman, if it's not focused down, is going to really go a long way to contribute to this fight, because Barles, even getting a second spearman there, able to hold off Vinchester in spite of a numbers disadvantage there. Now it looks like he has the advantage, but this one spearman over-rallied, takes a fight with the wrong scout cav, so just getting a bit of damage off, and ultimately falling there, but Barles is now going to focus down the low scout cav and actually takes 2 for none there, but Vinchester with some nice control, then also attacking the wrong target. Barles with the faster castle age timing, but I can't imagine Vinchester's is too far off. It's mostly just 1 villager cycle later, which probably be expected. But Barles still fielding a couple of spears here. He really wants to punish Vinchester for committing to extra scout cav here. And only scout cav at that. So, another thing we've seen here is that no need to build buildings to unlock other buildings. Vinchester never actually had to invest in a barracks here. So he's just got the single stables at this point. Going for a second town centre already. Wants to really boom up, but bearing in mind Barles already gone for a second and now a third town centre. So I suppose Vinchester's probably going to be expecting this and looking to go for his own early third town centre or just go for a castle drop. And he hasn't actually gathered any stone here. So it's probably just going to be a third town centre, as well as get some monks out to try and snatch up these relics, considering it's such a high relic map. Like 3 to 5 relics is pretty much normal for 1v1. 11, you know, that's like 3 versus 3 territory, man. I suppose in team games though, because you got access to markets, relics really started to be a bit less meaningful, particularly because AoE2 gather rate just quite isn't what it could be. I mean, they were never designed to be as high impact on the eco as AoE4 relics as such, because it's 30 gold a minute versus 100, but overall gather speeds are actually slower in AoE2 as well, so Barles, access to those early knights, he'll be able to guard his monks quite easily. Access to cheaper knights as well, so he'll be able to spam them out a little bit easier. Sorry, they're not cheaper, they're fucking faster training, sorry. Once he actually gets a castle upgrade, sorry. But he does have extra health on them, so that's going to be... Is it? Hit points in feudal. Why does knights not have extra health? I don't understand. Or does that only impact your scout cav? Yeah, I don't understand. Cavalry get 20% plus hit points, but does that only impact light cav? As I'm not seeing shit. He's definitely got the same health as his enemies' knights. I didn't see any bonuses to knights, the camo at all. The Barles and Vinchester. Gonna take some mid-map fights here with the cav. Trying to snatch up some relics in the meantime. So Vinchester's on a bunch. Now if Barles has managed to snatch up that one over there. Vinchester doing a good job at really zoning Barles off these relics. So each player's got a relic apiece. Barles actually snatching up one of those relic retrievers. So it's very expensive considering the monks. I believe they're 100 gold apiece. And again, the relic, 30 gold a minute. So if you do the maths, that's 3 minutes and 20 seconds of wait time before the relic pays itself off. So Vinchester, a nice big ball of knights. There's a couple of light cavalry out in the field too, so he's trying to use those to great effect. Pick off some units there. How much is it? 80 health versus 72 health. Oh, bloodlines. Okay, so a camo player has bloodlines, which is plus 20 hit points. Barles, does he even have access to bloodlines? No access to bloodlines, so it basically has just saved him on Bloodlines, that passive. And in fact, it leaves him at a disadvantage with Light Cav. With Knights and with the later game Knight line. Obviously, the French do have the advantage because 20% is greater than the 20 plus. But for units with less than 100 health, that French bonus to Cav actually leaves them weaker than any Bloodlines Cav Civ. Never actually realised that. So the more you know, guys. Garrison being forced here by Barles, keeping his opponent on his toes. Neither of them set to go to Imperial just yet. Vinchester's food eco, what the hell is the go with this? Oh, the farming, so it's just instant drop off. Rather than it gathering up an increment of 10 than just depositing it straight away, it's a constant trickle basically, so it's just interesting seeing the number count up like that for the Kema food economy. But Barles found a way through the gates here. And even though Vinchester's managed to really pull ahead on eco, he's actually down on, pull ahead on relic acquisition. He's fallen behind on eco because Barles is up to 4 town center at the moment. Vinchester's only on the 3. He's up to 4 now as well. But with a later 4th town center and with the raiding, Barles is up by about 25 vils at the moment. Vinchester doing a great job at still zoning out these relics while also continuing to acquire more. So once he's gotten 6, he knows he's already up on overall relics. Any more beyond that, you're just really putting your opponent behind on relics. And Barles has really backed himself into a corner here because he just hasn't got the military he needs to clean this up. He's going to have to try and squeeze in pikemen. Going for Imperial Age already. Vinchester still committing to Castle. Pikeman upgrades kicked in, but still just trying to muster up enough pikes to actually clear this army out. So he's got 5 or 6 there right now, but actually he needs to cancel some of these pikes and get them out of the other barracks. He's got 3 Raxes, but he's got just so many queued up out of the 1 barracks, not even using one of his other barracks, so a bit of a army replacement misplay here by Barles, and Vinchester's just really forcing these errors out of his opponent. He's already really zoned his opponent off relics, even in the situation where his opponent had the favourable relics. Barles hitting Imperial now, so he's going to want to try and find a way out of this. Vinchester, his Imperial Age won't be far off. Hasn't actually committed any resources to it just yet. But Barles forced into having to put down such a defensively placed castle here just to protect his gold mine and try and prevent this town centre from going down any faster. Barles trying to get some conversions here. Adding more monks now. He's not worrying about adding any cavalry. Does have a bunch of halbs here in the mix. Bearing in mind the Franks castle, not as expensive as it is for other civilizations, but even still, getting it at home, never as nice as having it out on the map, denying opponents gold mines or town centres. Vinchester's really closed this economic gap because it was out to about 26 villages, and now it's as little as 6, and he hasn't had to invest in Imperial Age either. So I think overall Barles is ahead in terms of the kill value, but Vinchester's up in terms of the actual kills. So even with fighting Halb versus Knight all the savings that come with that, because Halb's quite a nice cheap infantry versus the heavy cavalry, so pretty much the most expensive of the non-siege units. This is a great catch for Vinchester because Barles doesn't seem to have anything out here to defend all these villages that are quite exposed, trying to get on this gold and this stone mine. Not a complete wall off here for Barles either, because he's had to try and chop through here. So Barles should be able to clean up these guys without too much of a worry, but this is going to mean Vinchester is free to go to Imperial. And now Vinchester's eco size is actually slightly larger than his opponent's. On top of that, he's up to 6 or 7 relics to his opponent's 2. 6 relics to 2. So even though that gold trickle isn't all that huge, it's now up to like 3 a second here for Vinchester, which is probably pretty reasonable. It's a bit like having 2 relics in AoE 4. But it's pretty good. And yeah, because he's basically got more than half the relics and his opponent hasn't snatched up every other relic on the map, it just means another little eco disparity as Barles continues to fall behind on villager count. Vinchester, a couple of units on the perimeter. His opponent's base, both sides. This one, unfortunately, slightly too far away from the villagers. Barles has already got access to Trebs, had access for them a little longer than Vinchester, who's now having to try and get Trebs out just to counter his opponent's Trebs, who are focusing down his buildings, and be able to take out this castle. Sorry, I didn't have my mic volume up for, I must have bumped it. Barles try and chip away at this castle, force his opponent to have to keep repairing it and keep using the Treb in a more defensive position, trying to actually focus down enemy siege rather than enemy castles and production buildings. Barles finding a way into Vinchester's quite open base here. He hasn't really worried about walling off these outer town centres that he's got, but I mean he's up to about, what's that, 4 there, 5 in total, so he's looking pretty healthy. Nearly 140 villager pop, so he's looking to pretty much stop here, I think. Though he does need to add his last couple of houses. He's been playing this so tightly, he hasn't worried about hitting house cap, so he's just going to add those in now. So it's a moment of reprieve for Barles, who's fighting on about the same population at the moment. Bearing in mind he does have smaller eco pop, so his military size is larger than his opponent's, but a lot of it is locked up in the trashiest of trash, spearmen. The only thing that gets trashier is skirmishes, particularly in the face of arbalesters, and in fact skirmishes are probably more useful than spears in that situation. Vinchester has the opportunity to try and snipe villagers or try and snipe cavaliers with some stutter stepping, even just taking out enough halbs so that it makes it easier for his own cavalry to fight into the cavaliers. Barles creeping forward, trying to take out some town centres, managing to snatch a pair of them there. Vinchester not looking too badly off through all this aggression though. He's still at 130 villager pop. Still has 3 town centres. He's now evening the population of military up a little bit here. Vinchester's also found ways into Barles' base, having to, you know, force him to have to commit a handful of halberdiers over here to try and clean this up. Arbalesters of Vinchester's own. Be able to clean up those halberdiers. Barles going to want to try and add some trebuchets once again if he can, because he's going to have to try and bring down more structures. Vinchester's ultimately going to have to try and get some siege of his own as well. Needs to get another pair of houses because he's population capped. Once again, he's adding a castle over here though. This is quite nice because it's pretty much like a mimic town centre. Doesn't have to drop off as Kema, so it's even better for the defence that that offers. Masonry coming in just to give an extra building health and armour here for Vinchester. Barles will try and harass his opponent once more with Cavaliers, slow him down, keep him out of his own base. I don't know how successful that's going to be, considering on this right side there's nothing here to cover for him. Oh, I missed that pair of halbs, but Vinchester very smart to keep going with these cav, keep them moving while he's cleaning up the villages on this gold mine while this is going on. That last cavalier might fall, but there's another pair of them here. Keep being a pest, keep killing villagers, and even force out some defensive unit production. So Barles catching up in the villager count, 120 to 130. Things aren't looking too shabby for him now. His military size about the same as Vinchester's. Relic acquisition is still 2 to 6 in favour of Barles. I mean, in favour of Vinchester at the moment. Barles struggling to find the time to actually grab any of these relics. Seems every time he has a monk out in the field, Vinchester just pushes into him and kills it. So it's not very nice, man. Just let people enjoy things, okay? Vinchester gonna try and bundle up these Arbalests as best as possible, so they're not taking all that much damage. The rest of the melee can't get on top of them until things in front of them are dying. So they will get cleaned up in the long run here, but they've done the main thing of denying this castle as long as possible and sniping all the villagers, and just ultimately taking the most cost-effective trade versus melee that they can. Barles trying to harass the hell out of Vinchester over here with a bunch of halberdiers, which is problematic for Vinchester because he's mostly got this light cavalry out, so these guys are going to have to keep on the run. But the beauty of that is they can just outrun the halberdiers and not really worry about committing to attacks unless they can get on top of the villagers and they get out without being picked off in only 2 or 3 hits from the halbs. So Hussar upgrade kicking in on them, getting a little bit more health. I think they get a little bit more damage too. So it's making them an even better villager killer here. And you don't want them having fights like that against the halbs, so Vinchester just throwing it all away. Like Barles is going to lose this frontside towns castle to the pair of trebuchets now. I don't know if he's got any of his own siege to try and take out some structures or a castle of his opponents here. Barles throwing up a house. And just going to finish off the wall off there. Vinchester harassing his opponent, halb versus halb, and just denying safe gold access over here on the top side. Lower side there is this attempt at mining out all these small bits of gold, but they'll just force the garrison anyway. The castle can provide some nice cover for them. Barles trying to dive the trebuchet, not really successful. Does have both paladin and halberdier here. Arbalester and Hussar are seemingly holding off long enough just to get a couple more trebuchet shots in, but ultimately this central fight's going to go Barles' way, but it might be buying Vinchester all the time he needs to keep starving Barles out of gold the sides of his base, so these halbs pretty much unopposed at the moment, and these Hussar have just been constantly harassing the gold and the food over here. So Barles down to 85 villagers, starting to struggle economically. Isn't going to be able to keep up against Vinchester's Turbo Eco at the moment, considering he's still on 120 villager pop. Barles is trying to harass as best he can all around Vinchester's base, but it's a little bit too little too late. So Vinchester taking the game, takes the series 3-1 and books himself a seat in the grand final.